So I started bowling at age of 10. The reason why I started bowling was because my dad, he bowled in this league once a week and he had one bowling ball and he was just bowling for fun. He very often would take me with him to the bowling center, so I would just sit and watch. And I was very intrigued. I was like very curious about bowling, and after a league, he would just let me bowl. And I just loved bowling from the very beginning. And I just love sports in general. I used to play tennis, I used to do skateboarding, karate, floorball, like everything. I played piano, I was dancing, like I was a very active child. One day, this lady came up to me and my dad, and she was like, hey, I started this youth program. I have these very young kids that just started bowling. Are you interested? Me and my dad, we spoke about it, and I was like, yeah, of course I'm interested. Like, I want to bowl more. It sounded fun and hang out with other kids my age. So that's what I did. So I signed up for this like youth little coaching program that this lady had. And then after a little while, she would talk to my dad and she was like, hey, Diana is progressing really fast and I think she's ready for this next step and like get her own bowling ball and have like proper coaching. And I was very interested and I was getting better than other kids, and to me that was very exciting because I was always very, very competitive. We had no like international coaching whatsoever, and bowling was very new in my country. And we were very fortunate to have two coaches, Sid Allen from Australia and Ruben Kiragosian from Venezuela. They came to my country to start a bowling program. And that was something very like wow to us. We had like really big names come from other side of the world to like start the bowling program and coach us and stuff. I just wanted to bowl all day. So I was there the first one at the bowling center. I was the last one to leave because I just wanted to bowl and get lessons. And the coaches said, you know what, you have a lot of talent. One day you could be a superstar. Those words just changed my life forever because I wanted to be a superstar. Like to me, that just sounded so like Hollywood and so fancy. And that just changed my mentality completely. And honestly, at that time, I didn't know that there was bowling outside of my country. And so that's when I was introduced to like European bowling tours. But at the same time, when I was bowling, I was doing other sports too. I was very good at them and I was very competitive. And I had so much going on that I had to choose. So I had to choose between bowling, karate, skateboarding, and dancing. So those are the sports I was doing at the same time. Bowling to me was unexplainable. It was something it was challenging, but it was fun. And the fact that one of the best coaches in the world told me that I could be the best in the world one day, to me that just changed my whole mentality. Then I started traveling to European bowling tour, competing against the guys on tour, because in Europe, in the European bowling tour, the girls and guys, we bowl together. I would bowl for Team Latvia at European championships, World Championships, and I started winning medals for my country at a very young age. The government of Latvia was like involved because I was, the first bowler in my country to start winning medals and stuff like that. So it was a big deal, like making history for Latvia. I was still going to school at that time because I was 16, 17. Then my coach asked me, hey, like, what are you doing when you graduate high school? And I was like, I have no idea. I know I want to bowl. And honestly, at that time, I didn't know that college bowling in America existed. Like, I didn't even know what that was. And so my coach, Sid Allen, at the time, he was like, hey, there are a bunch of bowling programs in America. You could study and you can bowl at the same time. And to me, that was perfect. The thought of me moving across the ocean, moving to America by myself to go to college and bowl and leave my family in Latvia was scary, but it was something I was ready for because I was traveling around the whole world since a very young age. Bowling and like vacations with my parents and traveling to me was like nature. Then I heard about Weber, which was a very, very new program at that time, and they had just won the national championship. I was already committed to going to Weber because I knew some people from Kegel Training Center, like meeting them like at the world tournaments and like in Europe. Some other universities reach out to me. They're like, hey, like we heard that you're interested in college bowling. If you want to go to like Wichita or Nebraska, and I've never heard of those schools before. And to me, I had to choose between Weber, Wichita, and Nebraska. And the main reason why I chose Weber was Florida, because I love hot weather. So to me, weather was a selling point, because Latvia is very, very cold. And I know Wichita is cold and Nebraska just sounds cold, and Florida is just, sounds dreamy. And I've been to Florida before. So I was like, yeah, I love summer all year long. Kegel was also another reason, because I've heard about Kegel a lot of times before, and I already knew people from Kegel Training Center, so it was easier for me to do that.
And a double for the Lady Warriors. Zavjalova. Beautifully done.
Coach Stoughton told us yesterday that once Diana's comfortable, the team is comfortable.
In 2013, I was still bowling for Team Latvia. I would still travel to the World Cups and World Championships and trying to win medals for my country. And there was a World Women's Championship in Vegas in 2013. And that was my main goal, that I wanted to bowl. And it just so happened that the USBC Queens was right after that tournament. So to me, Queens was just like, it was a tournament that I was going to bowl because I'm already there. So my main focus was to bowl the World Championships, and I bowled for Team Latvia. I won bronze medal, which is another history for Team Latvia to win the medal of the World Women's Championships. It was a big deal. If not for the World Championships, I probably wouldn't have bowled the Queens, because I really didn't know much about that tournament, but I was already there. So I was like, I'm just going to bowl with zero expectations, not even knowing what it is.
There you go. Able to get a little drive on that 5-pin, and a big shot for her. Reaction says it all. Diana has taken control of the match at a great time through 7. Got it on the 7. That's clutch bowling, a 3-bagger. Oh, they've made a huge impact in college bowling, men's and women's. And one of their players has gone on to become a major champion. Get to know the name. Diana Zavjalova.
That was my first time on TV show by myself, because obviously I bowled for Weber, we were on TV before. But when I made the show in 2013 Queens, it was my first individual tournament TV show, and I didn't know what to expect. But I think TV brings out the best of me, because I somehow focus really, really well, and I don't get the lights and the people get in my head. And I bowled against Leanne Holsenberg. It was a dream TV show for me, because I bowled against a Hall of Famer, someone that used to bowl the old tour, and I won that tournament without having any expectations. I wasn't even going to bowl that tournament if not for the World Championships beforehand. So yeah, I guess everything happens for a reason, right? When I won the Queens in 2013, my confidence just skyrocketed, right? Because I didn't even realize how big of a tournament, how big of a deal that was to win. And then I got all that attention, sponsors were calling me, and social media, and it was such a big deal. And I was a bit confused. I was like, I won a tournament, it's cool, but I didn't realize it was such a big deal. And when I got all that attention, I wanted more, right? But then also my confidence was through the roof, because I just won the Queens at early age. I'm the best. I did not know that the women's tour even was a thing, even back in the day, because I didn't know much about American bowlers in Latvia, because I was traveling around Europe. So I knew all the bowlers from all over Europe, and there were some bowlers I was looking up to, like Thomas Leandersson from Sweden, Tore Torgersen from Norway. So those are my idols. However, my female idol has always been Deandra Esbady, because when I was younger, when I was 14, 15, 16, she was traveling all over the world and bowling the tournaments, and she would come to Europe and bowl. And I just loved the way she carried herself, how she bowled, just everything about her. I was so amazed. And I remember bowling World Women's Championships in Mexico. And I was so starstruck because I saw Deandra and she bowled so well. And I was like, I want to be like her when I grow up. And so when I went back home, I think it was in 2006, I looked up Deandra's Beatty on Google and I printed her pictures and I actually put them in my locker because like in my bowling center we had like lockers so like you could close. So when you open my locker I had pictures of Deandra. Like I was such a fan of her and I still am. But I didn't know that a women's tour really existed because I guess it wasn't really promoted in Europe and it wasn't talked about it. So I knew of Deandra and like Liz Johnson because they traveled to Europe. So when I graduated Weber, there was no women's tour also. I knew I wanted to bowl, but my only option was to bowl on PBA tour against the guys. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna try it. And it was very, very tough. Like, as competitive as I am, bowling against the guys, it's hard. And then the following year is when they announced that the women's tour was coming back. I didn't know what to expect, right? Because I didn't bowl the old tour and we didn't know what the tour was like. And I was just happy. I was like, you know what? It's like a bunch of like mini queens because it's like tournaments, back-to-back weeks. And my life changed because I wanted to bowl for a living and there was a chance to compete against the best women in the world. It was just something I wanted to do from the very young age. And very lucky and fortunate to say that I get to live my dream now.
Make a shot.
It's left, and it carries. And Diana Zavjalova is a PWBA champion.
That's the look of a champion. Woo! And that wraps it up.
Thank you.
Latvia's Diana Zavjalova is the 2017 USPC Queens champion.
It's been too long.
Woo!
Great shot, all 10 back. And has the championship. She has wrapped it up here tonight.
I won my first year on tour and then my confidence was just getting, more and more. And I think you could tell by my body language, I was, bowling, like you could just see I had so much confidence. Once you reach that point where you have these expectations, like I need to win every single year, but then you don't win, it's very hard on your like mental health and mental state because you have the expectations and then you start questioning yourself because you haven't won in a couple of years, right? So then the confidence kind of like kept going down a little bit and I struggled for a couple of years there. In 2017, I made this big comeback, like I won the Queens for the second time. So again, my confidence was through the roof. So really throughout the last like 7 years on tour, my confidence was doing this. Like when I was winning, it was high, and then when I wouldn't win, it would go down, like question like, hey, am I good enough to win? Yeah, and then 2018, 19, again, I had expectations because I just won my second Queen, so I should be winning every single year. And then when you don't, again, your confidence goes down. And then 2020 happened. And I think it was a very rough year for everyone. When they announced that the tour wasn't going to happen in 2020, it was like someone took my dream and just crushed it. And like that's what I was doing every single day, right? Like I was bowling, and like to take that away from me was unexplainable. But also on top of that, my grandma, who raised me when I was younger, because I used to live with my grandma, she had some health issues and she passed away. And it was very heartbreaking to me because it was during the COVID time. So it had nothing to do with the COVID. She had other health issues, but she was in a hospital by herself because it was the COVID time, so there was a lockdown. So I couldn't travel. I couldn't travel to Latvia to see her. Mom couldn't even go visit my grandma in a hospital because it was a lockdown. So my grandma was by herself in a hospital and she passed away by herself. Whew. That was very tough on me because she raised me when I was younger and I was so used to being around her, and I felt like I couldn't be there with her when she passed away. Oh, wow. So I hit depression big time because the lockdown was happening for so long, and I couldn't even fly to Latvia to the funeral because I was stuck in the United States. So yeah, COVID took bowling away from me that year, and then my grandma passed away. So those two things combined it put me in such a dark place, and I hit depression. It took me a while to get out of that dark place, and I was very fortunate that my family was just supportive and trying to help me. And EJ, who now is my husband, he was by my side through it all, and I'm super grateful to my husband because he was like the only happy thing that I had like at that time. And I don't know what I would do if not for him. I really don't think I would have gotten out of the depression without him, so I'm super grateful for him. When bowling came back in 2021, I was in such a dark place, and I almost quit bowling because there's actually 3 events, like in a row, I think, where I missed the cut completely. And I was in such a dark place that I considered quitting bowling. I actually called my mom, and I was like, hey, I can't do this anymore, I'm quitting. And then my mom was like, no, like, don't say that. And mom being mom, was like, okay, I'll give bowling another shot. So somehow, after 2 years, I got out of this deep hole that I was in a very dark place. And I got married last year before the tour, and I think it just changed everything. And last season, in 2023, I had such a good season. And a lot of times when I was asked, like, why did you bowl so good? Like, what changed? And I said, happiness.
Zavjalova needs 8 for a title. Bang! And there it is. Diana Zavjalova Ninichka, a champion again on the PWBA Tour. She takes down the PWBA Waterloo Open, her first win since 2018.
If your life outside of bowling, if it's not good, I think you're going to struggle in the lanes because it's going to be like deep in your head, right? And I think it's very important that outside of the lanes you're happy. I truly think because I was so happy last year, I had such a good season, and I fell in love with bowling again, and yeah, then my confidence started growing, and here I am now.